This episode is brought to you by The Author's Mark, Juxtabook's 12-month professional publishing experience for nonfiction authors beginning in January 2026. It's a high-touch, guided journey that includes personalized one-on-one coaching, group sessions with industry experts, and a live in-person workshop, all designed to take your book from idea to published platform in 12 months or less. Only 12 authors will be accepted in this first cohort. Learn more and book your discovery call today at juxtabook.com/authorsmark. Have you ever read a book and when you're finished, you've thought, that was a good book, but I could have written that. There were some additional insights I could provide with my book. And so you decide, I'm going to write a book, whether it's to expand your consulting, coaching, speaking, or for some other reason, maybe to leave a legacy. You've decided that you want to write a book. But the problem is you don't have time. You look at your schedule, it's full. So in this episode of Your Path to Book Publishing, I'm going to review what gets in the way, specifically due to time, and how you can overcome this and understand it, and how you can start writing your book today without actually writing it. This is Your Path to Publish. I'm your host, Zach Christensen. For the past decade, our team has guided authors just like you to find the best path to publish your book, get people excited to buy it even before it launches, and to turn it into the ultimate business card to build your business and your legacy. If you are ready to get your book out of your head and into people's hands, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. This is a common problem for many authors. They think, someday I'll write my book. At the beginning of every year, they set a goal to finish their book, to even just start writing their book. But then that year goes by, another year, 5 years, and before you know it, it's been 10 years since you had that inspiration and idea to write a book. One of the authors I've worked with this year, I had the opportunity to go give their keynote speech. They crushed it, and their book is all the more powerful because you go in deeper into their topic. One thing they said that really stood out to me was that they had the idea for their book when they were in their late 20s. And currently, they just hit their 51st year. They said, I wish I would have started it and been brave enough and had the courage enough to start sooner. What I've learned as I've been working with authors and in writing my own book is that there are many ways to make time for your book that aren't necessarily writing your book. Writing your book and developing your book is a creative endeavor. It's a process that starts in your mind, and you're trying to get what's in your head organized and put out and written into something that's understandable as you put your thoughts and ideas together and put them in an organized way that someone else can understand. It's hard enough to just communicate from your mind to your mouth to words to someone else and have them understand and interpret what you're saying in the same way that you see it. Trying to do that without other types of communication, such as body language and tone and intonation, makes it even more challenging. And for those of you who have attempted or tried to write a book or done any writing in any capacity, you realize how challenging this can be. And that why first-time authors really do struggle to find and make the time for writing a book. I want to run through the process with you as I've been working with authors for several years and what the options are for you to be able to get your book done. So the first thing to remember is that your book starts when you have an idea. And if you've already created an idea and put it into your professional career and created a framework, you have coaching, consulting, or you have a speech that you go around and give, you're already far ahead of the game. But think about when you first started with that, with putting your consulting or coaching practice together. What was that process like to create the idea, put it into a framework that someone else can understand, and then speak competently and confidently about that topic? Doing the book is the same way, except it might be a more narrow focus. It's going to be a more narrow focus for your audience and for the topic of the book and for the job of the book to be done. Because when you're consulting or coaching, you have the option to go in different directions. So the first thing to remember is that when you have an idea for your book, you need to start exploring it. Start thinking about what's great about it, what's different about it. Start looking at other books. I often talk about thinking beyond the book. Take a step back and think about, what is this book going to provide for you? What do you want it to do? How do you want it to serve you? And where you want to go as you build out your author brand, your professional brand, and what you want to do to have an impact, whether that's for yourself, your clients, or your audience. In this process of brainstorming and thinking about what your book could be about, you're starting to set guidelines and guardrails for you. Because before you even jump into the writing of your book, you want to have a good idea of what your book is and what it is not. And both of those are equally important. What's the outcome that you desire? I often ask authors I coach and say, when someone finishes your book and closes it, what do you want them to think? What do you want them to do? And what do you want them to be feeling at that moment? Capturing that as specifically as possible is going to be something that will guide you throughout the writing process. And all of this can be done through the time that you spend thinking about your book. If you have a commute, if you have any downtime, maybe take part of your lunch, maybe in the morning while you're getting ready for the day, you're thinking about what you can do with your book and you're engaging in that creative process. And you may think, well, I'm going to forget what I think about. That could be common. You may have a wonderful idea and you forget to write it down. To capture those ideas, leverage technology. On your mobile device, on your phone, you can start a voice memo and start speaking and brainstorming out loud what you're doing. If you are using and leveraging AI and okay with dictating to AI, you can do that, as well as have a conversation with AI to be able to have them give you even further feedback, or just to capture notes, whatever that is. The technology is abundant. And then you take that recording, transcribe it, and there you go, you have your notes. And you can even have tools such as AIs or others be able to summarize what you talked about without adding or taking from what's already there, just doing a quick summary for what you're doing. This can really help to speed up the process of what you're thinking and capturing in your notes. So when it's finally time for you to take the next step, because it is inevitable that you can only brainstorm and be creative for so long, but that is a valuable step. So now it's time to put words onto paper or onto the digital program that you're using. And this can be done in a few different ways that can still save you time. There are different trade-offs, and I'll review those trade-offs, but they are hugely valuable even just to get you started. The first thing to do with this is to make uncompromisable time. For me, it was always every morning between 8 and 9:30 a.m. Sometimes that was a whole hour and a half. Sometimes it was less. Sometimes it was only 30 minutes. But I made sure that no matter what, I got at least 30 minutes when working on my upcoming book. Without that, I would have let other things get in the way of that goal. Worthy things that could have gotten in the way, but I knew this was going to help me in the long term. And that's the challenge. That's the thing we have to remember and think about as authors, is that this is a long-term endeavor, but it will pay dividends. I'm confident this book will elevate me and my business to the next level. For you, depending on how you typically write, it may be sitting down and just typing it out. And I would encourage you to experiment with this process as well as other processes. When I was writing my book, I did the first half purely just writing it. And then the second half, I did doing a speech to text option. I learned the trade-offs with both. Writing it was a little bit slower, but it helped me get more cohesive thoughts together and things that caused me to have less editing time in the future. Doing the speech to text was faster, but it did take a lot more editing. Now, if I could go back and pick how to do it again, the first thing I would do is make sure I have a really solid outline. And then second, I would do the speech to text again, where I dictate it in or record it and then transcribe it. Because one of the most important things for many authors and many prolific writers is getting that first draft out as fast as possible. Because once it's out of your head and onto paper, you're then going to be able to mold it and shape it to the way that you want to. A ghostwriter that I've worked with frequently compares it to being a potter and using a pottery wheel. You have to have the wheel spinning and putting clay on it in order to shape it. So that means you have to have something to work with. But then you're going to be adding more words, more clay onto the pot, into your story. And then you're going to be taking stuff out, adding it in, shaping it, reshaping it. And until you get something out there, you're not going to have anything to work with. I am a big advocate of getting your book written, that first draft done as soon as possible, with the caveat that you have a solid idea, solid direction, and solid outline. If you go with the methodology of a speech to text, that is something you can do while you're driving. If you're on your commute, or if you have 10 minutes before you go to bed and you've created your outline, what you can do is be able to just pick a part of your book and talk about it. And let it kind of run stream of conscious. Just keep talking, and then you can always edit that later. The biggest barrier is just getting the first draft done. And then the third thing I would recommend is, if you lack time, is consider hiring help. You're going to need help along the way no matter what. You're going to need a line editor, a copy editor, a developmental editor. You may have the skills to compensate for some of those, but rarely do authors have the skill set for all of those to do it well. A client that we launched their book recently used a ghostwriter to help them, and this ghostwriter did a method that helped get the book done within 4 months, and the first draft was done within 2 months. And you might be thinking, wow, that's incredibly fast. Maybe they wrote a shorter book. They actually ended up writing a book that was around 60,000 words and turned out to be around 260 pages. So that's an average, decent-sized book. What the ghostwriter did is that they interviewed the author, found out exactly what they did want for their book, what they didn't want for the book, and what were the parameters for their book. And then they leveraged AI to help create the outline, structure, and focus for the book. Now, they did not use AI to write the book. AI was able to capture the ideas with the parameters and limitations that the author and ghostwriter set to get the structure of the book. And this sped up the process tremendously because they had something to work with. They had something to reference. They had a strong outline to look at and adjust and modify on their own. And then they could identify, where are they sticking in the stories? What's the purpose of each chapter? Before they did any of the writing, they identified their structure and what they wanted to accomplish. And then from there, the ghostwriter wrote the book. Now, if you can't afford the full funds of a ghostwriter, I'm sure you can afford the funds for an AI to help you structure it. So to quickly recap what we've been over, we've talked about the creative process. You can do that process without actually writing the book. Second was around prioritizing the time for your book, but still using the tools and technology available to get your book written through such methods as speech to text, and to be able to bring your book to life without having to start to write it yet. And included with that is to get your first draft out as quickly as possible. And then finally, employ help in the process. You're going to need it anyways. And based on your budget, you can find something that works for you, whether you're doing it yourself at the beginning or enlisting the help of a ghostwriter or editor. Thank you for listening for Your Path to Book Publishing today. If you haven't already, give us a review. It sure helps us find and connect with the people who could benefit most from our podcast. Or recommend it to someone who you know is aspiring to be an author. And as always, go out there, keep writing, keep building your brand, keep marketing your book, and having the impact that you desire. Thank you for listening.